We treat human history as a sequence of lived events, but written records function more like pre-rendered lore files for a procedural simulation. To audit this system, we must look past the ink on the page and check the only unhackable server timestamps available: solar and lunar eclipses. Joseph Justus Scaliger, the 16th century architect of scientific chronology, compiled the timeline we use today. He effectively hard-coded the dates of our past by linking historical reports to celestial cycles. But the code is broken. Scaliger's timeline fails to align with the laws of orbital mechanics. To fix this, modern astrophysics must artificially manipulate the Earth's rotation in their calculations, forcing the universe to match a man-made calendar. If the physics engine of our universe is functioning correctly, then the historical timeline is a corrupted source file. Mainstream astronomers use a complex variable called delta T to bridge the mathematical gap between calculated time and the actual rotation of the Earth. While delta T is stable today, calculations for the distant past require massive, physically impossible accelerations. This arbitrary spike is the only way to force ancient eclipse logs to match Scaliger's timeline. This manipulation drags the visibility paths of ancient eclipses thousands of miles across the map. These shifts are necessary to drop eclipses over specific empires at specific times. Our hypothesis is simple. The physics are correct, but the dates are wrong. Stripping out the delta T cheat code requires us to apply numerical offset patches to the timeline itself. Delta T functions as an algorithm patch used to cover up a rendering error in the simulation's chronological record. Consider the case of Thucydides, the ancient historian who logged 3 specific eclipses during the Peloponnesian War. He functions as a primary data source for the Greek log files. Thucydides recorded a near-total solar eclipse where stars became visible. However, mainstream calculations for his assigned date show an obscuration of less than 90% over Greece. At 84% coverage, stars are mathematically invisible to the naked eye. We fix this by shifting the entire Greek dataset forward by exactly 1,123 years. Applying this patch aligns the first eclipse with the year 693 AD. In this new compilation, the eclipse was nearly total over Greece, and stars were actually visible. The rest of the sequence locks into place. The secondary solar eclipse occurs in 700 AD, and the lunar eclipse aligns perfectly with 711 AD. Ancient Greece is a misplaced data cluster, offset from its actual position in time by over a millennium. This glitch isn't isolated to Greece. A global audit reveals similar errors across every major historical log file. The Roman dataset requires its own forward shift of exactly 781 years to align its eclipse logs with basic orbital mechanics. Babylonian cuneiform tablets, the most detailed celestial records of antiquity, exhibit the most severe drift. They function as raw, uncompiled machine code that fails to match the traditional calendar. A Babylonian eclipse officially dated to 136 BC only aligns with physical reality when shifted forward by 1,135 years. This places the event in the year 1000 AD. Planetary data confirms the patch. During the 1000 AD eclipse, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars were clustered exactly where the Babylonian tablets recorded them. When every ancient civilization requires a massive mathematical offset to exist, antiquity reveals itself as a corrupted dataset. Shifting antiquity forward into the Middle Ages leaves a massive chronological void in the center of the human record. The Dark Ages represent empty server space, a period where no genuine astronomical data was being logged. The simulation filled this empty time gap by reusing assets. It copied and pasted historical events and created repetitive narrative loops to pad the timeline. This explains why medieval monks were tasked with endlessly copying ancient texts. They were part of a procedural generation algorithm designed to repeat data until the timeline was filled. A full millennium of history was artificially generated to create the perception of chronological distance between the present and the past. If the ancient records only compile properly when shifted into the Middle Ages, then human history as we know it has only existed for a few centuries. In the 16th century, Johannes Kepler and the pioneers of chronology finalized the simulation's code. This was the true boot-up moment of our perceived reality. This makes all of antiquity a pre-rendered backstory. a massive lore file designed to give humanity context upon boot up. If the civilization cannot exist without impossible math, it was never a physical era. Stop reading history books as diaries of human existence. When the math and the stars disagree with the paper is the glitch. The records are the exposed source code of a simulated reality.